What if I told you to stop building a brand, at least in the way you may be doing it, kind of in this fluffy way where you're focused on your color scheme, your website, your making your Instagram page pretty. I'm not saying those things absolutely don't matter. They just don't matter as much as you may think they do. You're going beyond that to like the strategy part of your brand. If you are working hard to create a strong value proposition, a unique value proposition, you're getting to know your ideal buyer. Like you're really taking the time to get clear about who that is and really getting to know that person or that group inside and out. You could still be falling short because now, do you really want to know? Because maybe you're just kind of bored and scrolling and looking for a way to kill time. Okay, I just have to make sure. You could still be falling short because you do not realize the importance, the power of buyer psychology and how that plays into brand identity. You see, when I said you should stop building a brand, I mean you should stop just building a brand. You need to go beyond just building a brand because that means different things to different people, and in a lot of cases it's not what's really important. You need to go beyond just building a brand to building, creating, curating brand equity, brand value, and that's rooted in brand identity. That's not just about creating an identity for your brand, it's understanding your ideal client, your ideal buyer's identity, and how do they identify with your brand. Now, this is where the psychology comes in because you should realize people don't always buy based on need. I know a lot of marketers, marketing gurus, and others would have us think that. And I'm not saying that that never happens, that there are plenty of times people do buy based on need, but not all the time. A lot of the times people are buying based on emotion. Sometimes they try to come back and rationalize it with need, but it starts a lot of times with emotion. Often your buyer is buying based on who or what they want to be, who or what they identify with. And if your brand speaks to that, who they want to be, who they aspire to be, not necessarily who they are now. Who they are now is not always good. That could be negative. They, your buyer, may associate that negatively. They may have a negative perception of themselves or of whatever is related to your product or service. So just realize when you can speak to the aspirational part of your buyer, again, who and what they want to be, then you're winning. You have to think about that in terms of your brand message, your marketing message. Sometimes you have to speak to the future version of your buyer rather than the present version. This is why it is so important to really know your ideal buyer inside and out and know more about them than just their age, their income, other demographic information. You need to know really what makes them tick and think about how do you want them to feel after experiencing your product or service? How do you want them to identify? What do you want them to resonate with regarding your brand? That speaks to identity. See, Apple, Nike, these huge companies, these mega brands, they don't just sell products because they're superior products. I mean, you can debate that, and there are plenty of people who will. But take Nike, for example. Nike sells still like hotcakes, not because they're necessarily better or certainly significantly better than Adidas or Reebok or some of these other brands or even a Chinese brand. I saw an article recently that claims there are a couple of Chinese brands that quality wise are definitely better than Nike. Now, I don't know about that. Again, this stuff is debatable, but that's out there. Nike sells the way it does, though, because of how people identify with Nike and what they see, what they perceive in those products. They perceive these are the products of winners, of competitors, of overachievers, because Nike has partnered with people like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams. I mean, I could go on, but you see a common thread in all those people. And then the messaging of Nike, people gravitate to Nike because they want to align with, whether it's really true or not about themselves, they want to align with winning, victory, hard work. Understand? Or Apple, which it is also debatable whether iPhones are really better than Androids. But this is the thing. Apple has done an excellent job of conveying the message, conveying the understanding. Sorry, guys. All right, someone was at the door. Our dog started barking, going crazy. You understand. But as I was saying, Apple, we talked about Nike. The thing about Apple and iPhones in particular, it is very debatable whether iPhones are actually better than Androids. And I know this Android user here, long time Android user. Now, I'm not anti Apple. I do have an iPad. I've had an iPad for years. I love my iPad. But when it comes to the phone, I'm an Android girl. And we pretty much proven that Androids have better cameras than iPhones. I know some of you don't come for me. Don't do that. But I'm making a point here. People are more loyal and Apple, and Apple has more raving fans because of how they have positioned their brand, because of how people identify with their brand. And it's all about perception. They have tapped into, Apple has tapped into where their buyers and who their buyers want to be. Cool, innovative, disruptors, quality. That is what has been conveyed and articulated and beaten to a pulp almost by Apple. So again, you see what I'm talking about in terms of identity. That this all speaks to brand identity. And this is why you cannot just focus on pain points. We hear that a lot also in terms of marketing and messaging. Really tap into the pain, get into the pain, point out, highlight pain points. I'm not saying that that does not work. I'm saying it does not work in all scenarios. It does not work with everyone. Again, this is why you have to realize who your customer is. You have to really know who your ideal client, your ideal buyer is, because everyone does not feel that they have problems that need to be fixed. Everyone who's having financial challenges don't feel broke. They don't see themselves as broke, even if they might be, but they don't necessarily see themselves that way. Just like a number of people don't see themselves as broken. So when you're talking about struggling, if you're tired of struggling, sometimes the person you're talking to, they don't see themselves as struggling. They may just see themselves as having a challenge. And they might even welcome the challenge. They may be the type that bring on the challenge. I'm going to overcome this challenge. not always about fixing what's broken. Sometimes it is just about increasing what's working. Perhaps you shouldn't talk about going from bad to good or going from struggle to significance. Maybe you should talk about going from good to better, from good to amazing. See that shift? Again, this really ties into identity. And if you're a smart marketer, and if you are smart in terms of going beyond just building a brand into being strategic, you will be strategic and intentional about positioning your brand, something that's often overlooked. Let me know if this was helpful. If you have questions, certainly drop them in the comments, depending on where you're seeing this. If you are seeing this on YouTube or Substack, I invite you to subscribe to the Brand Breakthrough Experience. And if you are not absolutely positive that your brand is positioned, that it is set for sustainability, and I'm not talking about it just being pretty, it having pretty colors, there being a nice website or an attention grabbing headline. I'm talking about, again, strategy, brand equity, sustainability, and it being ready for more revenue. If you're not absolutely positive about that, then you need to find out about the revenue ready brand review. The revenue ready brand review. That could be your secret or not so secret weapon. Talk about an unfair advantage, especially online, because in this crowded, noisy, digitally driven, AI driven world we're in, you can't move the way perhaps you've always moved or how you moved 5 or 10 years ago. So check it out. Until next time, take care and take some action.